That's why I say they're not getting called till it's out of control. I shouldn't say that, we're getting more people out there. Somebody might call.
Can I?
I'll just start it right away.
I mean, contained clarifies it, and you said contained and controlled and contained.
This actually mirrors the one we passed last year and the year before that.
It does.
So, we've been okay so far.
That's kind of what I thought. But time changes and sometimes.
Well, I hate to change anything that the fire marshal hasn't seen. He's seen this one.
Yes. And there's no restrictions on as we speak, but they're coming. So once again, we're ahead of the game. Shall I call for a vote the way it is? If it doesn't pass, we'll do some changing. So, shall I entertain a motion?
I make a motion to pass resolution DR 2019-0603B, fireworks and open flame restriction as it is reported.
Okay. You have a first?
Second. Got it?
I'll second
We got a second? Have there been any discussions or comments? None? All in favor? Aye.
it.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Okay, we have one opposed. Motion, resolution passes. Move on to item number 5.
Is there a resolution paper coming?
This is, yes,
I'm looking for
you're
it.
talking about the signature sheet? Yeah.
I'm watching out for Mary.
Mary has it. Yeah, it's in there.
Okay, it's in here, where? It's number D. We get to talk about the warrants.
Oh.
I've got the resolution.
I have a signature though, card, so.
Was that it?
Oh, I was looking for that one signature page. Yay! Good job, John.
Moving on to item number 5, business license. Turn that over to Eric for a minute. I think there's a packet that actually has them down there.
Yes.
And so there's two, I guess there's two new applicants and 2 renewals. And Eric, with regards to the Wasatch, or could you speak to either one of them, or is anyone here that's involved in that, they can talk to for themselves with regards to Wasatch back rentals?
So I've just been waiting for the inspection report back on Wasatch back rental.
They were, last I heard, we were waiting for a re-inspection. So we did one inspection, there was a list of items to be corrected, and to my knowledge, we haven't re-inspected the corrected items.
Okay.
Where's Wasatch Back Rentals at?
It's in the Suburban Propane.
Okay.
That was actually the second item, is that the anchor tenant didn't have a license either.
So here's that one.
So that was one thing crossed off the list.
So I guess the question being if they met those requirements now to move forward, as far as you're concerned.
Wasatch,
Yes.
not until we get that inspection report back. I don't know.
Okay.
If they had some items they didn't get done, then have they called for that, Ryan, are you aware?
Not to my, I don't believe they've called for the re-inspection. It was made clear they needed to do additional work, but I don't think they've either got it done or called yet.
Okay. Pass on that one.
Motion to continue that one.
Motion to continue.
I second. Do we second that?
Yes. So we should do, yeah, so let's call for a motion then.
Okay.
And we have a first then? Okay.
I second it?
Second. Any discussion on it? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Business license will be Table or continue?
Continue.
There you go, continue. And what about suburban propane then being an anchor business? Any issues?
Do we have any issues with
We've
them?
always repeated, we've always done that.
Yeah, they just let that lapse a couple of years ago, and then when Wasatch back came, I'm like, well, you got a problem, because the anchor tenants get about to get a cease and desist order for doing business there, so. It's taken them 2 months to get that through.
Council, any questions on suburban?
Say, we have a letter from the state fire marshal on the
On
suburban.
Suburban.
And that's what the inspection thing is on.
That you're waiting
Wasatch.
for.
Right. The same items that the state fire marshal, item 1 through 8.
Okay, that was continued. The next one would be, well, we had High Mountain Waste Management. And so once again, that's a little premature, isn't it, or?
Yes, so these are the people that are in for a zone change.
Yeah.
So I think we should probably notify the applicant and continue that one till our next meeting. Notify the applicant, we'll be talking about the license, and go ahead and take action on the license. Clearly not in, it's not in compliance with the codes. And
they're not here,
and so they have an attorney, Mr. Clark. I think we should notify them that we'll be taking on the license, taking action on the license next meeting, so that they are available to be present. That's my motion.
To continue,
Okay, we have a motion,
second it.
we have a second. Any other discussion?
So we have a lot of businesses in the town that don't meet the regulations.
What we have here is someone that hasn't ever met it and they're first applying, but they haven't morphed into something, they haven't just started something.
Yeah.
So they're applying and they clearly are going for a zone change, which has to either grant or not, that would make this a viable business if that's granted. If not, it certainly doesn't apply for it. So we either have the written complaint or we don't approve it because we already know it doesn't fit in. All those other ones have not gone this process.
Do we have a written complaint on this one?
No, it's been retracted.
So
Well, I kind of do, because I have that text.
Oh, yeah? We do have a written complaint on this one.
do we?
Got another one today.
Yeah, they sent it to me.
Because.
Okay.
They're the neighbor next to them.
Okay. I just want to make sure what we do to one, we do to everybody.
But we had the public hearing up on the zone.
There's no question that this would be in line with consistent with what we've ever done.
What about just not giving this license until we understand what's going to happen with the zone change?
That's hard to continue that.
Yeah.
Well,
But he was saying also go and do a cease and desist type of thing.
No, that was on Suburban Propane. They were currently doing business out of a place that had expired.
Okay, so all we're saying is hold off on the license until we find out what goes on in the zone change.
Right. This is for a home occupation license.
Yeah.
And it doesn't fit in there. It might be a new application under a commercial zone if it's changed to commercial.
Yeah,
That
okay.
it very well may fit in that zone, if there's a zone change.
Does planning have a recommendation on that zone change yet?
Nope, we didn't adopt the, it actually came to the council. Well, it hasn't come to the council. It got sent to the council with no recommendation.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a tie vote, 3-3.
In planning?
So our code has us, we have to address that application before November.
So it'll be on the agenda before that.
And so that's what I told Mr. Clark, that we would notify him when they're on the agenda.
So in the meantime, can they continue their business legally?
Not legally,
But they are.
but they are.
So what, does the town have a plan for that kind of situation?
Well,
They want
it's in the,
somebody to sign a complaint so that it won't come back against the town, it'll come back against the person that's signing the complaint. Because they don't wanna go ahead and enforce their own laws unless you sign a complaint. They said they gotta have a complaint for the judge.
Right.
Well, that's a bunch of baloney.
There you
I
go.
understand that.
Where is this located?
I can't,
So this would be down 3,000 south, a few houses up from Eric's, if you know where Eric lives, and it'd be where they have the dumpsters packed, the trash dumpsters, kind of like a few of the other ones in town, their business. So it's a residence, he parks the containers back there. They never did have a Daniel license. They said they had a license. It ended up being a different municipality. Doesn't really work well, but we have not had assigned any written complaints, and so I understand that you don't like that particular way. We took a year and a half to find, a way to be able to enforce something, and it would be by not just us driving around and trying to be the police. It would be by someone that actually did want to complain and sign it and say, yes, I saw this, or I did this, or the dust is affecting me this way. We can't just stand up there and say, so-and-so says some dust is here once in a while. I mean, the person who's being affected is usually probably more helpful. That's why I'm looking, you made the comment about that, and so that's why we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to enforce, and it came down to a signature that that if it goes to court, there's not just us saying something. Somebody has more viable information.
So basically, you can do anything in the city that's illegal, as long as nobody.
Complaints.
Okay, so let's put it this way. Heber City,
That makes
until a
it
year
easy.
ago, had, every house had violations. They finally had enough in their budget to hire somebody that could go around and enforce it all. So we don't, and most places don't have that individual. And so we tried to set up a program that would work, because maybe something that irritates you doesn't irritate him or vice versa. So we need something that's to gauge, and that would be a signed complaint.
For what reason did Suburban get a cease and?
They didn't get one. They were going to get one because they hadn't renewed their license for 2 years.
So they're running a commercial operation, they're in a commercial zone, but they just didn't have a license.
So who complained about it?
The town, we don't have a license.
That's good.
So when this guy comes, Wasatch,
See, the difference is having a license or not having a license, or if someone just starts something and doesn't have anything, they may be running business, but do we know that? Or they tell us they don't run it, or they're saying they're not running it. So do we call them, what do we say to their faces when they're telling us something that's not happening? Or that what they're describing is not what we think is happening?
so then I'm curious to know, what is the public think? Should we be out enforcing our codes? Do we want an enforcement officer driving up the road
We
looking
could
for?
hire Blake.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, and that's a great question, and we're here now, and there's enough in this room. Do we want to hire somebody that would go around and pick on everybody that has a code violation, whether it's whatever it is? Too far this, too high this? I love it, yeah.
I've lived here since 1956. And year after year, most of you weren't even born then. And it seems that the last little bit, we have been deciding how to get around the law so that this outfit, when Eric got his permit to change, it was, you told me the other day, it was on the count of, across the road on the county, it was for,
Industrial.
that's kind of.
Let me back up and you can tell me if this is what I told you. What I said is in the plan 10 years ago with the town plan, we had indicated that on our arterial roads, either 189, we have one little section on 3000 South. That's the only commercial. It was designed that, or we talked about it, and it's in our plan for 10 years ago when we started. We also have the same thing on Mill Road, that other corner, that when the time is right, that would be the only place to have commercial, because we can't put that in the center of our town. So those would be the only two. So in Eric's case, if you look at his property, right across the street is industrial, not commercial, but industrial, that one little,
West Ames Lane.
yes. So that's industrial, so
No.
all of Eric's across the
Almost right, but
street,
it's in the town.
all across the street, so in my personal mind, I'm speaking for myself, that would be the line to go down for those few lots to be commercial. It wouldn't be going all the way up 3,000. So when this gets discussed, there's reasonings behind across the street and matching in residential versus commercial.
What about the people that live close to it and they see, what's going on and how it affects their lives.
That's certainly gonna come up, for sure. Depending on what gets put there, and it might be, hey, great, that's a great, but they're
You
good.
know, a lot of people won't say anything. They'll just sit there and swallow hard and gobble it up.
You gotta say something.
But they
don't
did at the
wanna
last
rock the boat.
meeting, they all got up and talked at the
How's
last
that?
meeting. They all got up and talked at the last meeting, and they were opposed to it, and we heard that. Yeah,
It was never passed on.
no, it wasn't, and now it's back to the, now it's gonna come to the council, and I was here, I heard the complaints, and.
So it hasn't come
John
before
was
us,
there,
Blaine,
yeah.
yet, and so we've heard from other people, and
So we heard them complain.
It was just, I don't know, it seems like we're going, we just,
people have the right to
each one
apply,
of
and we
these
have
goes
to deal with their
up to
application.
family. If you give one person, one of the family members something, you gotta give them all something. And that's just the way this township is. If we give one, we gotta give them all. If you keep the door shut and don't give anybody any of it, then you got no squawk. Nobody else has got another squawk in the world. But when you go ahead and let the cat out of the bag, the other kids are gonna follow. And that's just what's happening out here in Daniels right now. I can tell you 4 places. 2 of them's on Daniel Road. You look way to the back, they're starting to put big trucks and trailers and everything back in there. Another one up on Mill Road, he's got a construction company and he's got storing all of his equipment back there. He's had enough gumption to go ahead and make a berm around it. You've really got to look to see it. But these are what's going on. And then you take across the road from him. They had a wedding the other night. There's my nephew that got married there. And I
But
got
what's that,
nothing
they don't
against
have
them
any
that
on-site
married
parking
them.
at all, it's all on the street, it makes 3,000 a one-way street. Because there's no on-site parking.
They don't
So
have
we're getting off the, you know,
Hang on.
we're gonna say a business license. I wanted to blame to, since you kind of talked to it, kind of,
They go ahead
maybe
and-
understand how you
If
feel.
it's a business for profit, then they gotta have a license,
They
right?
do. And if it's
So
not,
what
he can
does
have
that
as many
mean?
as he wants.
Huh?
If it's not for profit, he can have as many as he wants.
Yeah, but you think they're gonna rent that out, just donate it out to everybody for nothing?
I don't, because I know him, but
There's not many people.
he's
that
got
way.
a lot of friends, and he has usually 2 or 3 of those every summer, and he tries to be respectful, but if he's doing something wrong, we need to be told. I can call him up, and he will not do it.
If he's gotta have a business license, then he's gotta have his own
He
check.
does have to, if that,
So
but
you
if he doesn't
see-
take money, he's not doing business.
His
Once you
nephew
let that
rented.
zone change
That-
get started,
I believe his nephew rented to have his wedding there.
So I had discussions with 3 different people about it, and I was clearly, and the owner knows that it takes money out of your business, and he told me that they were not gonna be taking money for any kind of rental, because that would be a business side, so if he did, then we'll have to talk to him
Yeah.
about
So it was a
Lots of
party,
friends.
there was a big party
I
at
saw
a
the cars,
private
yeah.
residence.
it. Yeah.
this is the same reason
Got it.
the person that still owns the barn, and when he built the barn, ask Eric,
I know.
no housing up in the attic. There was no place for an apartment up the attic. Eric, after he found out, Eric was up there and he made him do a whole bunch of
He
renovations.
enforced our code.
He enforced our code. Well, why don't we enforce our code now? We got a code, let's enforce it, and let's not have to have somebody else stick their neck out on the line for something that we all want. If we got a code, we ought to enforce the doggone things. If we're not gonna enforce it, you might as well throw it in the ditch.
Some say that, I understand.
It is 1,000 west off of Daniels, off of the 3,000 that goes north, is that a private lane?
1,000.
No. It's up there by,
No, it's right,
Lugton, where Lugton lived.
we're,
Going
Oh,
across there.
no,
So is
no.
that 600?
1,000 west, that's exactly due north of where the reception is.
Oh, the 3 houses that got put back in there on that street?
It's a
Near where the
private,
reception was.
Yeah.
up the road on the other side though, right?
Yeah, it's north,
Oh, no, that's not where the three houses are, that's
yeah,
the electrician.
yeah. Really,
In front of your house.
yeah, I'm just saying, that becomes public parking for these things.
Yeah.
And that's a private, and that's a private road.
Okay.
So anyway, that's all.
Do you know
I
that
know
individual? Have you met him or anything?
I
Or
have.
he's usually a pretty nice guy.
Yeah.
If he was causing some inconvenience, I bet if you mentioned it to him, he would probably make arrangements out to be able to do something. He may not have known it was or wasn't. And
I doubt they want parking out on this.
I mean, it's the individual pulling in and just trying to find a spot. But
Yeah.
we would, if it bothers, I believe he would try not to bother you.
It's hard to control 75 cars that are going to parking.
Good charge.
Big
But,
night.
but that's another.
So you got your-
Yes, Jim. You've been very patient. We're going around.
We could charge for parking.
So,
Yeah.
if I'm hearing this right, then, like on Christine Davis, is that the place? Where they, Christine Davis, where they got that stuff back there?
Yes.
As you guys drive by, all back and forth, and you see it back there, and you know it's a violation of the ordinances and stuff, you don't do anything about it?
Well, can you sign a complaint?
So when people, and this is not really, we can have a discussion about this, but where would we like to start? Whose house would we like to start out? Because it's probably a violation at probably 75% of the homes in this particular town. So if someone's gonna start, then they can make a nice list up, and I bet you their own home probably has some type of violation in it. So that's part of the whole equation of having a sign complaint, because there's lots of violations, whether it's encroachment on street easements, to trees in wrong ways, to mailboxes that aren't, I mean, there's a violation of a lot of residences. And so if we want to go down that, which I don't, I think we deal with it on a neighbor-to-neighbor basis or a town basis with a complaint, because we spent a whole year trying to deal with problems, and that's what this council came up with decisions and comments from the public.
So if a person makes a complaint, like that's, my understanding, that's not an industrial area.
That is actually an industrial area you're talking about.
That piece of property,
Yes. I have the zone map, I can show you.
So what's the question, if it's legal?
I did not think that we had any
It's not
industrial
quite that
areas in
simple,
the
I know.
downtown.
Yeah, it's actually was zoned industrial from the county when we became a town. So we haven't changed the zoning, but it is actually industrial property.
But we have a lot that's two zones on the same lot.
So, why is that map not on the website?
This map is on the website.
I couldn't find it.
Yeah, the zoning map is on the website.
So why is he applying for a zone change?
So
So why is he applying for a zone change?
all that
So
gray
you can get that
is
business
industrial.
But the-
So, the house is in the industrial, the house that she lived in is part of the industrial site.
It's not. The front of that lot is residential. The back of it is industrial.
Now, that's in the county.
No, that's in the town of Daniel. This gray is all in the town of Daniel. This area out here, part of this is in the gray zone. That's not been annexed to either or Daniel.
That's still in the county.
Right. But the back of that is industrial. And this should be on the website.
I couldn't find it.
Okay.
It's not under the maps section. On the left, I think it's on there.
But Jim, part of the
Of course,
problem,
with my computer skills, I was looking to find the town's website anyway.
Did that answer everyone's questions with regard, I mean, we need to move on with some other business licenses, but I want to,
I have a question. I'd like to know how many businesses are operating without a license.
I don't think we know.
Well, I think it's just spiraling out of control, and I think if you got the people of Daniel involved in the process, they would want to contain residential 5-acre lots.
I couldn't agree with you more than 1,000%. And we went 2 years, so I want to keep residents and residential. We have people that bring in all their big equipment and call it their personal equipment. They want to threaten lawsuits because it's personal, but yet they might be doing something at their house, so they could justify those big pieces of equipment. Then we have diesel cars that sound like diesel trucks, that how many semis we could have. So we spent 2 years trying to contain this, and so I would, what would you see that could help or do?
Well, I think if you have a code, you need to enforce the code or not have a code. And I don't know what the codes are. I'm not familiar. I'm trying to get familiar with the codes. But
Sometimes codes, they're out of compliance, and then they go into compliance, so sometimes some people are never gonna go in compliance, then they're gonna tell you everything except the truth. We have everything told, so once again, how do we go around and enforce that? Do I do that and go
I
around?
guess you have to get evidence. This is
Right, and so
like
that's.
for the wedding. If you asked whoever had the wedding, if you went to them and said, I'm interested in renting that property, how much did you rent it for? If you get evidence,
And what we just found out, that's entrapment.
That wasn't free.
So for instance, let's put it
That's what our
this,
attorney just told us.
Who enforces the code?
when we get a signature, he does, every single solitary time that we've ever needed.
Well,
If somebody signs, I investigate.
you investigate.
I do. I can play you if you want to hear one from last week. You want to hear it?
And images.
No.
No.
No? So we got a complaint of a generator running around the clock up on Little Sweden Road. Been doing it for how long? 3 weeks. Here's what I heard.
So there's an individual that had it said the generator's running 24/7 for a week. We went out the very next morning. He goes to investigate to see if it's a viable, liable, whatever. This is what he sounded. No generator, no sounds, nothing.
Metal lark.
I was gonna say, I don't hear anything, metal lark.
Metal lark.
That's the generator.
So some people get bothered if someone ran a generator for 2 days, and yes, that might be running late, out of compliance or out of zone, but I don't know if we're all looking at those little things. But once again, that is out of compliance, that is out of code. If they're running late at night, and so the question would be, where do we start? We start with a signed complaint.
Why do you file a code? If you're not gonna enforce it, why do you have a code?
We don't, you can't look at it like that quite. We enforce the code, but we enforce it once we have a written complaint. So there's no, we enforce our code through written complaints.
Complaints driven.
If there's a written complaint that's signed by someone and it's proved that, yeah, that's an issue, it's addressed quickly.
Right now, there's a lot of squirrely people in the country. Everybody's killing each other off and they're doing all kinds of things to them. Why should one person have to sign a complaint for the whole doggone town?
Understand,
It's
Wayne.
the law, and why not just enforce the law? And
Because we don't know
why
where to
has
start.
somebody to stick their neck out?
Can I say
You
something?
got it, Shelley.
Before you guys became a town, we was Wasatch County. Wasatch County had their own things. You guys got a lot of problems, okay? Now you're trying to
That
fix
didn't sound quite right, did it?
some of these problems. But these new people that are coming in with licenses, you're trying to fix that. There is these others that have been in this town before there was a town. How do you go and say, here's our code, and now you guys bought out here, get out?
Which we can.
Exactly, you could do that. But you also had a whole town, a whole room clear full of people that didn't want that happening. So the only way you can do it is by voicing a complaint. Like you said, you guys tried it without. It ran Eric ragged. Without that complaint to show to a judge, this is what it is. And I personally, if you want to complain, put your money, put your name on that paper. Because you need to be the one to stand up with that judge also, say, yes, this is bothering me. We have a problem here. It ain't just for the whole town. If you're the one that's complaining. What you're complaining about isn't bothering everybody else. So if you have a complaint, then be a big boy, pull up your big boy pants and sign that paper.
Great.
If you don't, then zip it up. You guys are doing awesome.
Any other thoughts, Jim?
That may be true to a certain extent, but the law is the law, and it should be enforced.
And it should, and I don't think anyone here disagrees. Do we want to hire a $75,000 code enforcement and have our taxes go up? Because we haven't gone up, something that this board and our town have been proud of, we haven't raised any Daniel town taxes for 4 years. If the residents want that kind of intrusiveness and a code enforcer, that can be put together, but it's gonna be really costly.
The code enforcer's the cheap part, the lawyer's the.
I say, because you look at Heber City and they are slammed with lawsuits because of that law enforcement, because of that code enforcer. Huge problem.
So then your approach is that, from starting right now, going forward, you're gonna make everybody go the line. Everybody be up before that's grandfathered in, is that what you're saying?
So what I would say we're saying is, before we were a town, some of the people that had their big equipment in their businesses would be grandfathered in because they were doing the same thing, the same uses before we became a town. The new people either have been dealt with or they keep coming in and they're not dealt with, and they say they're on a business and they say whatever, but if there's no complaint, we can't deal with it. We won't, but we will if we have a complaint, and we do every time. So, once again, a code enforcer versus a complaint. If we have a complaint that's not bothering somebody, we're going to enforce it. But if we want to go around and just start picking on stuff, we're going to have to pick on everybody for every little thing, that's every little code. I don't think we want to go to that.
So what happens when somebody files a complaint?
Then it goes to the complaint individual, and he calls up and goes and investigates that complaint.
Well, you know, I think the main reason that there's zones that are established, the problem is when you change those zones for the convenience of somebody. But the main thing is to keep that zone.
But we do have a town plan, and we do have growth, and we have lots of, and so we try to stay to that plan, which is very minimal, but mostly residential.
Yeah, because that's the easy way to do it. When you start changing zones for convenience, then that's the way you control it, is say, this is the zone for it.
Yeah, but they have the right to ask for a zone change.
Sure they do.
And that's where we end up doing
Well,
it.
definitely.
And that's where it comes up, and we're all kind of talking about it, because they do have that right to.
Sure they do, without a doubt.
I'd like to ask each one of you there. Don't it upset you when the town codes are being violated? If you don't, you shouldn't be there. Because if you pass the code, you're against it. Why don't you sign a complaint then? Why don't you sign a complaint? Why don't you sign a complaint? Why don't all of us sign a complaint? Instead of have one person sign a complaint. Let's all get in the complaint signing business, and maybe we could get something done.
That's one way to do it, or you could just sign a complaint, and that's all it
I
takes.
had signed one,
I know
but
you
you
did.
know,
You did
you
the-
didn't sign one, and you didn't sign one, and I thought, to the heck with it, why should I stick my neck out when these other guys,
It's one way to
they're
look at
just
it.
happy with it, the way it is.
Lynn, I understand your position, and we've got some business licenses to move on, and there's always another time to talk about it, and we appreciate all the comments you've made. So, we've moved past High Mountain. Did we finish that one off? Or did that spur all this and we need to make a motion?
Yes.
Yep. John?
I just made one more comment that if you guys do have an issue and you don't want to sign a complaint, you are more than welcome to call and talk and email and come and see us and let us know. Because we want to do our best to make everything work. We're not trying to run from enforcing the code at all. We want it to be enforced. But we need something to back up on, and if you don't want to sign something, come and talk to us, let us know, and we can still try to investigate it to some extent.
And I think everyone heard your concerns.
Yeah.
And even at the last meeting.
Concern?
We heard you, yes, I heard you.
And at the last meeting, sir, I heard you, and
There's a whole bunch of
when
her.
we move forward, I'm gonna
Now,
base
look
my decision on
It's
that.
with a new license, but for Wasatch River.
But we
But
have not,
we're not
we're
approving
not
it.
passing it.
They can apply for it.
They gotta.
They can apply for
I
it.
know it's still gotta go again
Okay.
before the budget.
So did we move on this or no?
So it hasn't been
We're waiting on
approved
a-
though, it's
I mean,
been,
did we table or continue it?
Yeah, we continue that. Right, isn't that where we did get the motion?
So the High Mountain was
Yeah.
continued, and the Suburban,
Well, we had some continued with letting them know that they'll be on the agenda next one.
correct.
So we need to have Mary send them a letter.
okay.
think you're gonna note on something. Okay, yeah.
Stephanie,
Yes?
are you worried that you might take Mary's job over?
I'm not worried
This is a
about it at
5 o'clock
all.
shuffle.
I'm glad they're passing it
Terrible
that
about
way.
Okay, we're back to, down to Simpson Fence, which is a renewal. Any comments or questions on that one?
They have applied for an ag building in the back of that property also.
Is that what these two are together, with Driving Force LLC?
No,
Question, on new business license, is the applicant supposed to show up and give a little presentation? I thought I read that somewhere.
yep,
Thank you.
they are requested to show.
Requested. Okay. Fair enough. They know that obviously when they apply?
Yeah, we let them know when we meet,
Okay. Just-
where we're at. Most of them show up.
I know, I've
Get
seen
them.
some show them and some not, so I was confused, but I thought
Yeah,
I
they
read
can come or
it.
they can have a representative come. It's up to
Sure, just someone to tell us about what they are doing.
Yeah, if the council has some questions.
Otherwise, you're saying, no, thank
Yeah,
you.
you could end up continuing.
What day of the month does that come on, with this, for the whole county?
That's the first Monday of every month.
No, I mean, so will the planning county.
Oh, the planning's on the third Wednesday.
Third Wednesday at 7.
The 7th?
At 7. Third Wednesday at 7.
Is this?
You'd be there.
Yes.
You'd be there.
I'll get rolled up.
No, you
What's the
won't.
second one?
I listen to you. You're a smart man. You were on the commission with me. He's retired.
Oh, that's our,
Just one parting question. How come you got that back row so crumbed up with a great big space here?
Don't get too close.
You've all been eating pizza.
you think this seat's comfortable?
Just as hard.
That is, that's our movie production.
Oh.
So we had to change the name. We had our own name on the other license.
And by the way, they followed every rule to down to the dotted I and T.
I think I burned myself up on going.
Come back on Wednesday.
Okay, so that takes care of business licenses, new and renewals.
So did we renew Simpson Fence?
We did. It's been renewed each year.
Okay.
Item on number 6, planning department report violations and enforcement.
You might want to listen to this one.
Thank you, Blaine.
Anybody else need one of these? You gonna share it? Do you need your own? She shares.
I get one another time, but.
You will.
We can share.
Sherry, do you need one of those? You bet. You get over here to Ryan.
Anything I don't know about?
No.
That's good.
You'd love to see me go.
No, I wish I was going with you.
You have a good night,
Good
Blaine.
night.
Well, you always ask for the first question. So what happened to the install broken on the NAS? What happened there?
We had a,
That's the first one I've seen in years and years worded that way.
we had a blow out the bottom, so we don't know if it's a faulty meter or we don't know. It exploded.
And at that point, we just put another meter in and be done and move forward.
Well, it's a special meter, so.
At the size of it, right?
Yeah.
So there.
Yeah, it's a 1 inch.
And so is there a discussion on who purchases that, or is it just kind of assumed that it's ours?
We purchased it.
Well, the first time we
It's
did.
in our court to fix. I've got to call in the manufacturer, and we're working on it.
Okay. Great.
We didn't know it was defective till Friday.
Yeah. Or this morning, that's usually how it works. We're good for council.
Okay.
I don't have any questions on that.
No questions?
Myself, anybody else?
No.
Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So So that would be your planning report.
Yep.
As far as the two you're working on and hours and whatnot. Any?
Yep, so we have all the conditional uses that the planning's looking at. We're gonna go through every zone, look at if a conditional use, we don't think it needs to be there, we're gonna send you a recommendation to remove it.
And that's done every 5 years, right?
No, it's just done whenever we feel like it needs to be done. What happened was the legislature started changing some rules, and if you have it as a conditional use in your book, and say you have a trucking outfit, and they think the noise and the smoke might be a problem, and so they install some fans to blow that smoke away. But we don't think that's enough, that's too bad, they did mitigate it. And so you're gonna allow it if it's a conditional use. So they tried to mitigate it, it doesn't matter if it doesn't mitigate it all the way, the courts are saying they tried, you're in.
Sounds like a.
So that's forcing us to say, do you want this in this zone or not?
Absolutely.
So that's what we're looking at.
I mean, are there some that may be identified clearly, or are they all vague, or is there anything that's?
Well, we just got, I mean, we have a ton of things, we have dog kennels, and, I mean, every conditional use in there, is the reason it's there is because it's probably more intrusive than what a normal use would be. And then while we're looking at it, we're looking at the uses also.
Just the sheer use itself.
You're right. Yeah, is that what we want in that zone? And so that will come as a recommendation, and then if you guys see anything, email us so we can talk about it in planning and get a recommendation as you look at those uses, because that's, if the courts are getting involved saying that.
Specifically the conditional uses, right?
Yeah, because we actually thought, and that's what everybody thought prior, was it's a conditional use, you don't have to allow it. And the courts are saying, no, you do have to allow it. So that makes us take a different look at it. So, and what they're also saying is if it is not allowed, if it's not in a use, then it is not a use in that zone.
So they're still sticking with the expressly written or expressly said. If it's not there, it's still open field.
You're right.
Or you have to have wording to control that.
Right. So that just changes a little bit.
Okay. Any other questions for the planning department? Okay. Here, moving on. Okay.
You bet.
7, discuss acquisition of Daniel Water Share. That stays on, that's been on the agenda the last few weeks. One of these days we'll be discussing it as we get maybe a little closer to some of the water issues that we hear might be coming down the pike for some of the irrigation companies and stuff. So does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss on that, even though it's an agenda item, or just?
Well, I think we really ought to be in a position to purchase those if they come available. I think that when we get these wells in place and as we continue to get to the growth of the town, once we get as far as building out, we will need more water.
And so, do we do that now, or do we wait a year, because maybe after they come and do that, maybe the prices may go up, may go down per share?
Once they do that, I think you're roped in. Once
Well, the cost per acre for whether it's Daniel or whoever.
Well, once they adjudicate it, the entire share will be worth less or more water. So the only place that it's safe is if we take it for future use and convert it to culinary use. They will be exempt from that haircut.
Hey, Ryan, so when you say haircut as far as acre feet,
Right.
so if it goes from an irrigation company to a municipality, it's the same acre foot?
No,
It's
there is
trimmed down.
a
Right.
trim, but it won't be the trim that's coming
Oh.
for everybody in irrigation.
Okay.
It will be grandfathered in, so to speak.
Okay.
Could you accept Daniel Water Shares in lieu of the impact fee? Or the connection fee, or whatever we call it now?
Ryan has a comment on that. I don't think that's come up as far as doing that trade.
Right now, the impact fee is called out as the impact fee and sufficient water rates. And we've discussed over time, do we want to have an impact fee and then allow people to pay in lieu of the water rates? But right now, the way the impact fee is adopted is it's water rates and the impact fee. The impact fees for the infrastructure, the water pipes, the tank, the pumps, and all the work we did. The water rights are a separate matter. And so we're collecting both right now on our homes.
If someone wanted to do that though?
I would think that that's a good discussion to have,
I would think
because
that would be something to entertain.
I mean, there's a dollar and a value exchange.
Because you're right, once you convert it to municipal, then it's protected. That
That's
water
right.
is protected.
We want to protect as much as we can.
Yeah, and I think we ought to be doing that. I think we should be doing that all along.
But right now, I've seen some at 35 and some at 4, and that's about where they're all hovering at the moment. And I think there's quite a few out there that aren't even trying to sell it, they kind of heard might want to sell it.
Yeah. Well, as this
As
gets
far as
close,
Daniels is concerned.
nobody's received their letters in the valley yet. As soon as those letters arrive, you're gonna see there'll be a big push. If you have extra shares, you're gonna be in jeopardy of.
And does the letter say how many shares you're supposed to get? Is that
No.
what these letters, what letters are you, from the state?
From the state. So they'll be asking you what crop you're growing, how many shares you have.
Because they don't know
They
those
already know how
things?
much
Of
water
course
is
they
attached
know.
to your share. But then they're gonna take an aerial photo, and this much ground is irrigated, you have this much water, oh, you've got 60% more than you need. All your shares are now worth what you need.
Based on their calculations.
That water just goes back to the state, because they own it, we only own the right to use it. So that's how adjudication works. So there'll be everybody will get the haircut. Then it will be up to the individual irrigation companies to say where that haircut happens. That's why they're looking at, if you're not using your irrigation shares, those might just go away. And the state's allowed to have 5 years, use it or lose it.
You're right.
So they can do
You've
that
said
as an
that for a while.
irrigation company.
I also noticed that Timpanogos is raising the fees so that they can install meters on the secondary water. You know,
For all new secondary hookups.
is Daniel
Twin Creeks,
Irrigation do, yeah,
you said Timpanogos, I think you meant Twin Creeks.
I did say, you're right. But I also talked to somebody who was hooking in, I thought Timpanogos, and he was putting in $2,000 meter.
Yeah, all new hookups will be required, and then it will gradually move through the existing ones. But all new ones, the legislature.
I have some stuff in another county, and I had to, even though my hookup was there and a meter was there for a long time, but it wasn't working, it's like, the water's not coming to anybody unless you have a meter, so that's what that particular water company did, is you get water unless you put a new meter on it, regardless of what the state said.
So I'm already metered, we did that when we first moved in, but is everyone gonna end up having to do that?
They will. The legislature's gonna require that.
Metered for.
So it won't be the turns anymore, it'll be an actual meter.
You'll have a meter which is
Which will
raised,
tell you the gallons and all that.
right, which has raised a whole different problem
Yes.
as on demand. So if you live in Heber City, they made you put a meter in, but you also have to pay an on-demand fee, because if you want water when you want it, that causes the whole system to be ready to deliver your water. So if you're on demand, you have an on-demand fee on top of your share fees.
What's the build out in Daniel? You said the build out will need more water. What is the build out?
I don't have those numbers in front.
What I will tell you is we sat in with UDOT and we had a meeting and they sat down and wanted us to give projections, and some of their projections were a little loftier because if this area were to get broken down into smaller acreage, and it's like, right now we're not planning on that. And so they wanted to use some 20-year realistic numbers, and we kind of held close at, this is realistic.
This is realistic.
So we bumped them a little bit, but the number I don't know, but I know that the state could see all that land and think we're gonna have a heck of a lot more than what we were trying to tell them, kind of.
Our plan now is this. So it's a pretty big number.
That zoning never changes. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden,
They
we
didn't give
have
us a
sewer
count on it.
going in through the roads and we got all the water.
So they broke it into zones and not personal lots, and then this area, what do you think? Well, it's owned by 2 people, or it's owned by 8 people. And we had see, there's, all that writing, is that numbers that we worked with Eric? That each parcel?
Yeah, each parcel has numbers of how many houses can be in there, and what we expect in the next, how long did this one go?
Is that a 2050?
2050. The Mountain Land Association of Government came, went over these numbers with us, how many jobs we think we get to create on the highway corridors based on our general plan.
So we have to do these reports down of some type of guidance.
You have to give them your best guess.
Well, we try to say, hey, hopefully the next folks are gonna stay strong, because that's what we do.
This is what we wanted to do. Anyways, got it. Thank
Oh,
The last master plan used a population, build up population around 2,000, and that was based on the number of acres divided by 5 for the houses times the number of people that live in each house in Wasatch County during the last census. And it's probably a little low because of the non-conforming lots, but that's what the last master plan said, yeah. Roughly answered the question, was that if we're at 1,000 now, we're halfway there.
thanks. Thank you. Any other comment? Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, which would be Daniel Municipal Water. And Shelley, is there any comments or questions you have on that?
Let's see, Daniel's is, I had a question that I needed the council to tell me what they wanted to do. We had, that property that used to be Myrick's. Okay, the one we was having problems with, the guy illegally, whatever. Okay, they sent, the title company called, I told him what was left owing, and
So is this another new sale? So I've been meeting with the Heber City Mayor and the manager multiple times on this, and so I've
this
been
is the
told by
sale
the
on
owner and by them 2 different stories about the lot, whether it's split again or went back to the original lot, and so what is your understanding at the moment?
what I understood is it's that house and the 5 acres is what this place
Okay.
is what the title company
For
told
sure,
me.
it's our water hookup.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, okay.
Okay. But so I called, the title company always calls right with sell, and I tell them how much is owing, you know, so they can get it cleared up before, and then they usually send me a check. Well, all of a sudden I get a check for $10, and the fee, what they owed was like 3 months. And so I called the title company and I said, whoa, we have a problem. You only sent me $10. They owed, I gave you this amount, but I think then they was focusing on that the property wasn't what they thought it was, you know. But anyways, I says, we need to get this cleared up, and they said, oh, the owners said they was gonna take care of all the old bills. So we just left it. So as I did the water bills today, it's, that old bill is on these new people's bill. So, what do you want me to do? Do you want me? I have gotten ornery with a couple title companies, and they know that it's illegal for them to sign these things over without having everything paid. So do you want me to call them again, or what do you guys want me to do?
What do you want to do?
With a new twist. We've got a lot of twists, but this is the new, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem calling the title company again. You know, and
So
saying.
the new owner's a brother or?
No, they're a whole different names.
Yeah.
Not related at all.
Yeah.
The new, so did it sell again in the last little bit?
No.
Oh, this is,
The guy that bought it then sold it and kept a little piece over here and then rented it to his friend or something.
Yeah, but the house itself was Steve, and then they sold it to these people, went through the title company, but the bank wasn't involved, so they didn't require them. Usually if you go to the bank, you get your title insurance, they hold the money out and pay all those bills.
Right.
It's a clear title, that's what they're
That's
insuring.
all you have to take care of, yeah.
That didn't happen.
yeah, because it didn't go through a bank.
Did not go through a bank, owner carried the contract. So now we have an outstanding water bill on a meter with the same number that the new.
Did you get what you needed?
I did, now I gotta get home.
You really get what you
Right,
need.
yeah.
See ya.
So,
So I
because-
asked him
because that
how,
meter's the same number, that just switches on the account in
Yeah.
Polaris, bam, all of a sudden there's an outstanding balance on that meter.
and then I have a $10 check that's why I told her, I said, why did you send me $10? And she said, well, I don't know. I'm like, well, this had nothing to do with the 100 and something that I told you was owing, and you send me 10. So I haven't done anything with the check, it's sitting there, because I just
They're
am waiting.
hoping that you'll cash that.
Yeah, and I'm not, I'm waiting for, you know, don't know if you guys want me to call the title company again and say, okay, he hasn't paid his bill.
It's worth a try. I mean,
Okay.
I don't like the scapegoats of any kind of
Yeah.
anything, so
Yeah.
if you don't mind it, let's
No,
call
I
it
don't
once or
mind doing
twice or whatever it takes,
Okay.
because once again, the guy knew exactly what he was doing, he
Exactly.
skipped out exactly on things and he,
Is this for the
Okay.
The water
Maybe you
gets
should
shut off.
return the
got
check.
something there.
I'm not
Kim's
sure.
got-
Sorry, Kim.
Maybe not.
Why don't you put your city attorney on this? And slap a lien on the property?
Because we found out a while ago that you can't do that for more than $200 or something.
Yeah.
So the maximum amount was $200, yeah.
But usually when I tell the title company that that is our next step, I have a check
I agree.
immediately.
But that with those.
Because they know that that's what's gonna happen. And that's why I tell them. I mean, that's how I've gotten a couple checks.
So is
I'll
this an
say, hey,
anon-
don't pay out, well, just lean it, put a lien, and they're like, whoa, we don't want, you know.
The reason why I mentioned that is they would be responsible for the attorney fees if you can stay within that parameter.
Yeah,
That's a dumb law.
it is a dumb law. You can count on somebody ended up paying a bill they didn't think they owed,
And or getting out of
and made
building.
it to the legislature.
Okay, so I will make a call. The other question is, we have a couple problems with getting mail up at that, what side is it? Clear at the end of 3000 South.
Is it mail?
Mail. They're not, I'm getting these bills returned saying no receptacle, moved. And we've gone up and hand delivered these bills. And then next thing I know, they're, like this one we just did, she owes almost $300. We took it up, hand delivered it, and it almost beat us back home. With another stamp saying moved, no, do not send. Even though we handed it right to her and talked to her. What do you suggest?
Well, this is where it comes down to that, in that particular circumstance, the way I understand it, I don't know why it'd be going 2 months when we thought we were gonna be turning waters off in the summertime within 30 to 60 days, and so I understand that may not be happening on a regular basis, so, that's the answer, that's the cure. I mean, you just take care of it that way, and I know it's not happening that way, and I know we discussed it to happen that way. Is that correct?
It is.
So that may be something, and I have brought it up multiple times, and maybe I just need to bring it up a notch more.
Okay, as I say, I'm ready, I will send out the delinquent notices, because there's some that, there's a couple like I said, I did bills today, and I was like, holy crap, this one's almost up to $1,000. How did we get to $1,000? But every time I bring it up and say, I'm ready to send these out, I get told, no. So, I'm doing it, so.
I have that written down, I got 2 chores so far, and that's if you wanted to clarify that situation.
Okay, and so I think that's, I hope we have problems again, we're having major problems with master meter not hooking in with Polaris.
And that's been a few months now, right?
It has been going on since, yeah. And so,
We have a new problem though, now it's not been in the Dropbox.
yeah. Yeah, Chris thought he had it all worked out, and it didn't. And so he called Master Meter today. They gave him some, things to fall. It's all because Kim left. It's just because he left.
So he's right here.
I know, and he left and sent us
Don't wanna waste that
into
statement.
a downhill spiral, Kim, thank
What do I
you.
owe you?
Just let me love you.
So I'm hoping that they can get it worked out, because they're finding, that it's not Polaris, they cannot get it to go from. So the bills are going out a little late again. I usually like to have them out by the 2nd, but I just got them today, so.
And so for some of those people, like, let's say, got out a little bit late, so they get in a little bit late, but we're not
Oh,
doing it yet, right? So
they
that
don't
issue's
get-
kind of gone away,
Yeah.
probably because
Yeah.
most people are getting it in that last 15
Yeah.
days or whatever.
Yeah, as long as they get it in by the 1st of the month. They don't have no finance. So that's good, everything was going good with Daniel. The Storm Haven, we've had calls with, I guess, the pumps going down. I don't know what to tell them. I tell them to call Gary, because I don't know why the pumps keep going down either, so that would be Ryan. But other than that, just everything, I think, up there is good. But we did sell a property, a person up there, there's a lot of, building ongoing up there. That Tim Jones, he sold his piece, and so I think everything's going well. What I can answer, I forward to Ryan.
There we go, and I know we do have one
And Ryan answers immediately. Good job.
issue that is continued that we'll talk about, and that kind of seems to be the same issue over and over as far as the main. Okay. Any other comments before we move on?